So this is a training video on how to do the treble clef note identification test 1, 2, and 3. This is going to solidify all your notes and teach you, well, actually confirm for you if you've got these ledger lines down. So, and the training on this is actually very important because there's a very specific way that we want you to do this. And here's how it would work. This is in the light yellow section. It's after the note naming worksheets that you've been doing, after the whole steps and half steps right here. And what we're going to do is you look at this note right here, and it's either an E, F, G, A, B, or, and you find out it's an A and you circle A. Okay? This one is an open string, so I hope you know it really well. This one's a C, right? So you'd find it here and you go, oh, it's a C. There's a note. Now when we get to this one right here, that's one you might have to count way down to. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. That's fine. But when you do this test, and here's where the training part comes in, go through and any note that you can't get pretty quickly, like within glance at and say, oh, it's a this, okay? Then instead of just doing it right now, what I want you to do is I want you to circle the number or put a check mark by this. Don't answer it. Go on and do the rest of the test. At the end of this, and it will probably just be mostly ledger lines, there's going to be a bunch of super low notes and super high notes that you don't know. Go back and figure them out at this point. And we learned how to do that by saying, let's pick an anchor note and go down from it. For instance, we know that with this note right here, that if we had a note right there on the space just below there, it's a D from face-to-face space and have a good day. So let's go backwards down through our triad. If D was the fifth, then the B would be the third, and then the G would be there. I'm just going backwards through the triad, and it's below the G, so if it was the middle note of a triad starting here, E, G, B, this is an E, okay? And so then you learn that that's an E. Now, here's the next step. So 1, do this. 2, ignore and mark any ones that you don't know very well. 3, go back and figure out what those are. Then the next day, you study the ones you don't know. And when I say study the ones you don't know, let's presume that it's just the ledger lines you don't know. So you would not know high A, B, C, D, E, or F. Okay, let's say 6 of those. And let's say you don't know anything below middle C, because we haven't been playing that on the ukulele. So it'd be B, A, and then G, and then F. And that's 11, G, that's E. There's 11 notes, right? Let's say that you just didn't know 11 notes. Then when I say study on the day between, pick 3 or 4, but no more than that. And you study those, and you study them, and you study them, and you study them. Okay, first day, take the test. Don't try and figure out the ones that you don't immediately know. Go back and mark those ones, and then go back and figure them out. Study 3 or 4 of the ones you don't know really well on day 2. On day 3, take test number 2. Now, if your studying has gone well, now let's say you had 11 that you didn't know. Now when you do it this time, there will be 7 or 8 you don't know really well. Okay? So then you find 3 or 4 of those. Okay? Study them really, really well on the next day. So that's 4 days, right? Then on the 5th day, when you come back, take test number 3. So I guess we're on Friday at this point. And if you've done exactly that and studied those 3 or 4 really, really well, now there's only 3 or 4 that you don't know, okay? And then when you take this test, you'll find that there's only 3 or 4 you don't know. And then you have the weekend to finish that up. So by next week, after the weekend's done, if you do this correctly, you won't have any trouble identifying any of these because you're only going to study 3 or 4 notes on the odd days that you're not taking the tests. Good? Now, can I enforce you doing this? No, not really. I mean, you could say, no, I'm just going to do these the way I want, just get them done. I guess you could do that, but you'll always, then be going, oh, I didn't learn these quite right. There's a great thing when trust happens. Like if you trust me as the teacher that this is the way you can do this, then you'll do it and you'll get gains out of it. And if I trust that you do it that way without, I don't know, coming up with some system to regulate that, then, we can do all kinds of things because we're cooperating then. If you choose to not do it this way, you'll get less good gains or no gains or something like that. Now, what I outlined for you was probably the worst case scenario if you know your basic notes. If you do not know a few basic notes, then maybe you have to study a couple more, on the odd days off, or maybe after you take the test, you do the ones that you should have known, and then so on and so on. But worst case scenario, if it's just ledger lines, you've got this in a week. If you know more than that, like let's say you come away and you know all but 4 or 5 of them the first time, great. Study just a couple of those and then take the test, and then study just a couple of those. When it gets to Friday, you'll have them all right. Okay, in summary, one last time. You take the first test. You only answer the ones you know. Any ones that you don't know really, really well, you mark. After the test is done, you go back and you figure out what those ones were. Day 2, Tuesday, you pick 3 or 4 of the ones you did not know, and you study them really, really well. You could make a flashcard, or you could cover these ones up and look at the ones that are marked and practice them that way. You could practice drawing them. You could have somebody quiz you. And then on the Wednesday, you take test 2. And if you've done the work, you'll be 3 or 4 less that you don't know. Do it again the same way. Mark the ones you're not sure of. Instead of answering, go back, figure them out. And now you know which ones you need to study. Study 3 or 4. And then on the Friday, so that's Thursday, on the Friday, there you go. Take number 3. If worst case scenario, you didn't know any of the ledger lines to begin with, now you've just got 3 or 4 more that you don't know, and that's Saturday and Sunday, and you come back on Monday. You're incredible. There will be a kind of a test on this on the weekend, so you want to on Canvas. Okay? All right. Spread out over time, little bits at a time, and you'll be great at this in 1 week.